Greetings and welcome back to today's Extraordinary Connection. I am Pastor Devin and I serve here at Romeo United Methodist Church. And a little earlier today, two of my kids were heading home from the church when they spotted an unexpected visitor. They spotted this little guy right outside the church doors. My son excitedly ran back in to get me because he wanted to share their find. And then, as we stood looking at him for a moment or two, my son made the comment, "Huh, a praying mantis at the church. Seems like a pretty good place for him to be." I have to say that the dad joke side of my brain, it was very pleased with my son. It was pleased that he's being brought up and able to make those ironic observations on the fly. That was a dad joke if there ever was one. But as I've sat here this afternoon, I've thought about the visitors that happen upon the church, that little praying mantis for starters, but also some of the two-legged visitors that make their way to our buildings. And as I thought about this, my thoughts drifted to two different individuals that I've had encounters with here recently. The first gentleman, he's been joining us on Sunday mornings for about the past 6 or 7 weeks now. And I honestly don't know how he came to be in our building that first Sunday, why he chose our church building. He was sitting right down front for worship. And after service, I could just tell he was glancing my direction. He was trying to get my attention. So I made my way over to speak with him. And after that brief introduction, he shared with me that his girlfriend had been ill and she was in the hospital, and he was worried about her. She didn't have a cell phone with her, and he didn't know how to get a hold of her or have a way of communicating with her. He'd been unable to visit with her because of the distance he would have to travel. He was unable to make that trip, so he'd just been worried about her, worrying about what was going on. And that's when I discovered that that was why he'd come to the church that morning. Because much like our little friend we found outside today, he too wanted to pray for his girlfriend, for her, but he wasn't sure what to do, what to say. So he asked me if I would pray. And I have to tell you, it was one of those moments that I know the Spirit was present for because I don't exactly remember what happened. I know I took his hand and I know there were words said, but I don't remember any of the specifics. And there were others all around us as people were still chatting after service and making their way to fellowship time, but in that moment, the two of us had a connection. And the thing that was joining us, the thing that was connecting us, I know it was the Holy Spirit. And when we finished, he thanked me with tears in his eyes. And that gentleman, he's been back to worship every week since. And every week after service, we continue to take just a minute to pray together for his girlfriend, to offer a prayer for her. And the other gentleman that I've had the pleasure of visiting with, I've seen a few times. My office here, it looks right out at Main Street. I can see Main Street here in Romeo, and since we're at the end of downtown, there's a fair amount of walking traffic that goes up and down the street. I can see people out my window quite regularly. And I've seen this gentleman a number of times, seen him walking up and down through town. And I had talked to him just briefly a few times before this, but again on a recent Sunday, about halfway through our service, I saw him. I saw the back door of the sanctuary open. I saw him kind of sneak in and grab a seat there in the back. Now, this is a slight aside, but this is where I get to have a proud pastor moment because you see, it was Communion Sunday that he'd snuck in for. And we, like many churches, we're still using those pre-packaged elements. You know what I'm talking about, the cup and the bread all in one, the wafers. People are picking them up on their way into worship from our welcome stand. Well, since this gentleman, he'd snuck in the back door after service had started, he didn't receive one of those communion packs. But the member who was sitting just down from him in the pew, she took notice of this. So as we got to the communion portion of the service, she hustled out to the greeter station and she grabbed a communion pack for him so that he could partake with us. And her kind gesture, it didn't go unnoticed. After the service, he made his way over to me and told me about the nice lady in the pew who had gotten him the juice packet. He then asked if I had a minute or two that he could show me something. So we sat down in the pews, and out of his bag he pulled these two notebooks. And I don't know if you can see the cover there, but that says the book of Luke. And this one here says the book of Isaiah. He told me that he's been hand copying these notebooks from the Bible. And he explained that he always does a better job remembering something if he writes it down. If he hears it read or reads it himself, it doesn't stick. But if he writes it down, he remembers it. So instead of just reading through the Bible, he's been making it a practice to write it down. He was proud to have those 2 books completed. Now, I've shared these 2 experiences with you because they both have made me stop and realize something. I don't know exactly what it was that made either of those gentlemen walk through the doors of our church. I don't think it was because they heard we have the best preacher in town. I don't think it was because they heard our music was the best. I don't think it's because our building is the biggest or best. I don't think it was any of those things. But I do think it was because the Spirit was moving in them. It was moving in their lives. And they needed someone to share that with. They wanted someone who was willing to listen to their story, wanted someone to pray with, wanted someone to do life with through the ups and downs. I'd encourage all of us to be aware of those opportunities because I think they probably come along more often than we realize. But those opportunities to just be present with someone, to listen to them, to let them share, and if the moment is right, of course, to respond and to offer a word of prayer with them. But who might you be present for today? How might you being present, how you just being with them, letting them share, how might you make a difference to them? We can make a difference. Sometimes it doesn't require a word from us. It just requires us being there. So until next time, my friends, I'm going to be here. I hope you'll join me again. Until then, stay safe, take care, and God bless.